I would be your biggest fan in the world if you treated me right. Now, I sort of understand there's a certain bias, maybe by Jeff or somebody, for whatever reason. And I understand that. But you've got to be at least a little bit fair. And that's why the public sees it. They see it. They see it's not fair. You take a look at some of your shows, and you see the bias and the hatred. And the public is smart. They understand it.
Right, and so is Steve Hilton. He was watching yesterday. He's the CEO of Crowdpac, Fox News contributor, and he was former director of strategy for the British Prime Minister David Cameron when he was a full-time employee. He's not working anymore. Steve, so you watched that for 77 minutes. What did you think?
I honestly loved it. I thought it was great. This is the Trump that people voted for, the guy who's going to be different. He's going to go there to Washington and shake things up. It also really, I think, showed something that people really want to see in their leaders, which is a sense of strength. He stood there, he took on all the questions, and he gave as good as he got. I thought that was great. And the reaction to it, which you've been reporting this morning, I think says something really interesting, which is that the political establishment, the media establishment, it seems to me that right now they are getting 2017 just as wrong as they got 2016.
Sure.
They are so crazed with their self-righteousness and hatred of Trump. They can't see that the things he's doing could actually bring real results. And I think that that's actually the caveat to all of this, and it's what you were saying earlier. The press conference, I thought it was good, and he stood up to the press, but the real test is what he does. And you're talking also about the interview Paul Ryan gave with Sean Hannity. Actually, I was a little bit concerned about that, to be honest.
Why?
Because, okay, the headline was, we're going to get all this done in 200 days. But if you listen to what he said, there are a few things in there that were problematic. One, Ryan gave himself, typical politician, a bit of wiggle room. He said, well if
they always
things
do that.
don't go right in the Senate, maybe we'll, we really want to get it done this year. That's the first thing. He actually didn't promise to do it in 200 days. The second thing, and this is what I just don't get about Washington, is this idea that you can't do more than one thing at a time. That we've got to do the regulatory stuff now, and then Obamacare, and then the tax reform. Why? I mean, what are they doing down there?
Well, where's the infrastructure bill? I haven't seen anything.
Why can't they do more than one thing at a time? Why do we have, from Ryan and the Republicans in Congress, this business as usual?
There's some rule that's set up. There's some rule that you have to first do Obamacare before you can do the tax
people
reform.
are viewers watching and say, why?
Yeah, why do we have that rule?
There are people all over the country who are desperate for a job, for a pay rise. They elected Trump to cut taxes, do infrastructure, get rid of regulation to boost the economy. And it feels to me like you've got this business-as-usual attitude from Washington. And that, I think, is what Trump really needs to fight.
And that's what if Donald Trump is back here in 2 months and there's nothing else done and he's still sparring with the press, then there's a legitimate problem.
There I agree with you, exactly. But I think the perfect outcome is to do what he promised, which he started to do.
Guys, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, and really say to Ryan, sorry, that's not good enough. We need it now. The American people elected me to do a job and do it quickly. And that's in everyone's interest.
Because even though it's been only 3 weeks, it's like time's ticking. We're ready to start getting some of this stuff done. Because he's trying to work and Congress is holding it up.
And I think that's what is the worry of a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump. And now, even if they didn't, they want America to work out okay. It's kind of like, okay, he's done as much as he can with the time he's had with the executive orders, but is Congress going to squander this unique time when the Republican Party has the White House, the Senate, and the Congress?
Important. And you saw in that press conference, Trump has got the energy and the attitude, and he's got the fight. And it's got to be directed to a positive purpose.
And, Steve, the problem is with our government, though, a lot of times this tax plan has to come from the White House. The infrastructure plan could come from the White House. It doesn't necessarily have to come from Congress. So now that he's got his people in place, I don't expect him to have a tax plan. He spent his whole life in business. But now it's time for them to say, hey, guys, what do you think of my plan? Well, then start marketing it up.
There's a really important thing there. Sorry to go on about the Paul Ryan interview, but there's another thing that really worried me. When Sean pressed him, quite rightly, on the detail of the tax plan and the corporate tax cut, which is crucial for getting jobs and incomes and investment and getting the economy moving. Trump promised 15% business taxes in the election, and Ryan saying 20.
Oh, yeah.
And Ryan said to Sean, well, it's just math. That is so not true. There is a really big difference between 20 and 15. A 20% rate is better than what we've got, but it's not internationally competitive. It puts America in the middle of the pack. 15%, that is a real signal to investors and entrepreneurs to invest in America, to boost jobs and incomes. He's got to win that argument. It's got to be 15%.
I don't know how it is in the UK, and I don't know if guys even do this, but when we were growing up as girls, we loved to take a love quiz. And like Teen Vogue or whatever.
We all took love quizzes.
Are you really in love? So you took a quiz. There's a quiz now.
Like in a magazine.
Yeah, in a magazine. We always loved that. How much do you really love your boyfriend? You know, and you'd add up all the points. Well, there's a quiz that Donald Trump's people are sending out to his voters, and they're asking him, how do you think he's doing? What news outlets do you trust? Some of the questions are, do you believe the mainstream media has reported unfairly on our movement? Another one is whether or not they trust specific news outlets like MS and CNN and Fox News. Here are some of the questions. It says, do you believe that the mainstream media, this is what I was saying, is reporting unfairly on our movement? So you can answer it yes, no, no opinion, other, please specify.
And here's another
he's
one.
sending that out.
On what? Yeah, this is all part of his accountability survey.
Yeah.
On what issues does the mainstream media do the worst job of representing? Republicans, immigration, economics, pro-life values. It goes on and on.
This is great, though. I love this because, you know, the truth is, you've got the mainstream media, frankly, when you watch the commentators and the people, they're talking to themselves. They're trying to get the approval of their kind of neighbors and friends in the fancy districts in Washington and so on. And actually bringing the people in and giving them a voice, I think, is exactly what, again, is part of what Trump promised, which is to give power to people.
And that's one of the things that's driving the mainstream media crazy, is because Trump is leaping over the mainstream media's head through Twitter and Facebook and all the other social medias, and that press conference yesterday.
Exactly.
But I got to bring you to the last one. Talk about over his head. Tony Blair wants to go over the head of the British people.
Oh, my God.
He's calling on the British to reconsider Brexit.
I just saw this morning. Very quickly, what Blair said this morning in London is a double assault on democracy. First, he wants to overturn the referendum result just because he doesn't agree with it. And second, and fundamentally, he wants to keep the unelected bureaucrats in the EU with the ultimate power over the laws and regulations in the UK. That is not democratic. Now, the good news is that Blair, I'm afraid to break it to him gently, is probably the most hated man in Britain.
Oh, man, oh, man.
And so this isn't going anywhere, whatever he says today.
Because you're from Crowdpac, the organization you started, there's a story out there that Crowdpac has set up something regarding Kid Rock, who the Republican Party of the great state of Michigan would love if he ran for Senate.
Well, it's interesting because you covered the story this week that he might be looking at a Senate run, and someone set up on our site, crowdpac.com, a campaign to draft him, like a crowdfunding campaign.
Right.
So if people want to see him run, they can go and make a pledge. Your card is only charged if he actually runs and actually enters the race. So,
how much money have you raised?
I don't know how much at the moment. I think it's in the low thousands. We've had a few donations.
I think it was like 4,000
something like that.
when I checked last.
So I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but it's a way of people saying if they want him to run, they can make a pledge.
He's a great entertainer, and he's got some political views that have lined up with Donald Trump, and he had some crazy T-shirts during the campaign.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, you never know.
You never know.
You don't judge, you just watch.
We're neutral. We just provide the technology. People can use it for whatever purpose they want.
All right. Steve, thank you very much for dropping by.
Great to see you, Steve.